Welcome back to Rottnest Island off the coast of Perth. I'm Bill McCartney. We're about to get rolling with the final race of the Prudential Superannuation Challenge out here, and indeed the final race of the national circuit this summer. A great performance from Bank of New Zealand yesterday. Xerox has got the circuit in the bag, but I suspect, Warwick Brooklyn, that Scotty Ramsden's very keen to win this one.
Yeah, well, he's certainly shown it's not a two-boat race and that he can get up there and win them, and I think he'll be hungry for another win, Bill.
Race 4 coming up.
As they line up for the final time for this National Grand Prix circuit, Ella Bachet in clear air with speed at the left-hand side of the line. Skilled Engineering got a good start at the right-hand side, and a bit of a traffic jam with Tasmania, Naturally Different, Bank New Zealand, Xerox and Prudential.
And this is the picture Scott Ramsden is seeing.
Up, Chevy! Chevy! Take it up! Chevy! Don't hit me, mate!
That's actually talking about the boats, not the people there.
Chevy! Call it and tack!
Now, Tasmania Naturally Different is starting to fall down on top of Bank of New Zealand. The Bank of New Zealand has right of way and is enforcing that rule.
Coming out early to the right is Prima Drinks. They got caught in behind the fleet and their air was being disturbed. They had to come out to the right, so they've broken out to the right-hand side. Now Tip Top White High Five also going. Ella Bachet had a great start, sailing across in front of Phillip Rock on the edge of Thompson Bay in fabulous Rottnest Island. They got a good start, changing directions now. Skiff's going from the start line up towards the top mark, tacking up into the breeze.
And the breeze lightening off, Tip Top White High Five going into attack. The collision, oh, Tasmania, look out Tasmania. Oh, Tasmania and Tip Top White High Five crash. And that was Andrew Dale's fault there. He had to give right away to Andrew Cudahy on Tip Top and didn't do so. And I wonder whether the judges picked up that infringement.
Well, you'd have to be blind Freddie to miss that one because clear contact there. Thank heavens no damage to either skiff. Not good news for Andrew Cuddy though. Tip Top White High Five set back at least one place in that encounter. Skilled Engineering doing well early in this race, and indeed she crosses ahead of Ella Bachet and Prudential. At the moment Xerox leads, Prudential is second, getting up towards the top end of the course for the first time, and once again Phil Barnett stamping his authority all over this race.
Yes, well, I mean certainly he's in a good position, but this is very close racing. I mean, there's nothing in it between Prudential, Skilled, Ella Bachet and Xerox. And even though this is the last race and it looks like Xerox has got the series wrapped up, there's a lot of pride at stake here. And Rob Brown dearly wants to win one of these races. I mean, he has just performed poorly so far. Bank of New Zealand has right of way. Yes, Rob Brown has to pull away behind him, and that could be trouble for Rob Brown because he could struggle to get around the top mark there in pink. And yes, oh, he's pinching his boat. Skilled comes down with speed. Bank of New Zealand tax. This is very close. And the one that's won out of this is Xerox.
Boy room, Dolly! Boy room! Boy room!
Scott Ramsden asserting rights there over Skilled Engineering. I'm not sure whether he had any rights there, Warwick.
Not feed the f***ing thing! Let's go! Come on!
Very urgent on board the Bank of New Zealand. Scotty Ramsden ripping it up his crew, ripping it up the opposition. And I mean, that I've never heard more of a angry man than him right there.
He is such a tough competitor. He just can't stand to lose, Scott Ramsden, and you heard it all in his voice there, driving his crew on and almost out of control with desire to win. They've already done this leg up from the start finish up to the top mark. We've seen them go around the top mark. They've set their chutes. They're now on their way over towards the wing mark, then down to the bottom mark, then tacking back up to the start finish line to complete one lap. They'll do 2 laps in this race. This is the final race of the Superannuation Challenge from Prudential, and Xerox once again has grabbed the lead.
Yes, and they were the ones that really benefited from all the traffic.
I think it's worth going past, you know.
Discussing the tactics that will enable him to get up to the front.
Keep forward, going forward. I've seen the mark, Charlie.
Scott Ramsden saying he does not want to jibe straight on the mark. Xerox didn't. They've come down below the mark, as you can see. They're trying to get the angle right, and Scott Ramsden's talking to his crew about where they should go.
Watch out, get ready to flag it. No, don't jibe. Get it on. Get it on, Charlie.
Telling them to continue on. All the other boats have elected to change direction, and Scott wants to keep on heading out to sea.
Okay, come in, Cam. You all right, Nod?
Setting up for the jibe. changes direction, and a good job on the Bank of New Zealand.
Skiffs on their way down from the wing mark to the bottom mark in Heat 4 of the Prudential Superannuation Challenge at Rottnest Island. And down on the bottom left, Tasmania Naturally Different, right up there with the pack. Now yesterday we saw young Nick Rich, the forward hand, on board this vessel go over the side. What occurred is that he dislocated his right shoulder. He apparently regularly pops it. That's them down on the left-hand side of the screen, in good shape, sailing again today, and has a chronic problem with that right shoulder of his.
Yeah, and that's not a good ailment to have for a forward hand, because they work their shoulders, as we can see there, very, very hard indeed with that big spinnaker. And they just get run over the top by Premier. So Premier's really improved in the last 2 races, Bill.
And what a fabulous picture of them heading down over the sandbanks out from Thompson Bay, heading down towards the bottom mark. Once again, Xerox in charge of this race, in charge of the national circuit, have been the star performers this year, and no doubt will be there again when we resume the national circuit next year. Bank of New Zealand from up above, currently back there in 5th position, and wearing head cam is Scott Ramsden. His point of view is this one. And his point of view at the moment is that Skilled Engineering and El Abache are both ahead of him. They haven't spent too much time ahead of him this summer, however. Scott Ramsden overall has done very well, a bit up and down, but no doubt next summer when we resume the national circuit, he'll be a top contender. Meantime, Xerox leads around the bottom mark for the first time in this race. Others coming down towards the bottom end of the course now. El Abache doing best of that bunch with the big yellow spinnaker. Skilled Engineering also doing very well indeed. Bank of New Zealand struggling, about to go into a jibe.
Go, Cam, make it a good one. Go, 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 go.
Scotty's still well and truly pumped up.
Come on, come on. Jesus. What? Nothing. Screaming myself. Sounded really good, Scott.
Yes, well, the boys have certainly a view on all that vocal activity from Scott Ramsden.
And it hasn't done him too much good. He made the wrong move there. He jibed too early, so his angle to the bottom mark was just diabolical. As a result of that, tip-top wide high five has come right up to them, and Prima Drinks back in the action once again.
Yes, it's been great to see Prima up there, and Prima has to give way to tip-top wide high five. Tip-top mistook the angle there also.
Okay, let's make it a good one. You right? You right, Cam?
Changing directions on Bank of New Zealand now. There they go, going out of the bottom of picture. They've changed directions to go out to the right-hand side. Their first aim is to try and get over the top of Skilled Engineering, also changing directions. Up ahead, El Abache having a very, very good race indeed. Adrian Carlin, the skipper of El Abache, once again having a good race early. Tends to start well though, Warwick, and then fall away towards the back end of the race.
It is certainly hard to sustain that maximum effort through the entire race, and that's what the championship leaders tend to be able to do, where the people in the minor placings are unable to do.
As we see a pretty ordinary tack from the crew on El Abache, and let's hope today that they can maintain the effort going through this race. There's the crew, Neil McDonald in the bow, Craig Ramsden in the middle, and we have Adrian Carlin driving. Fantastic pictures from the chopper being driven by John Ecott, who's done a great job for us in the chopper all season, and because of his good work we can show pictures such as these.
Yes, the El Abache looking very comfortable there. The boat going through the water very nicely. I mean, that is just absolutely superb shots.
Yes, these pictures of the skiff speak volumes for Rottnest Island. It's a fabulous place. The boys have had a fantastic sail over here. Even though Prudential has struggled throughout the series, everybody's enjoyed it. But today ahead of Bank of New Zealand, so that'll give them some heart. And indeed, just at the moment, Rob Brown having his best race of the series so far, sitting in second position, skiff looking comfortable. And pretty much powered up just at the moment. Chris Harmson not having to do much with that rope leading onto the big sail, which he has to ease and pull in to maintain momentum, but things pretty easy just at the moment as they get across to the right-hand side of the course, approaching the halfway mark of this race. Indeed, here's Xerox now going through the start-finish line for the first time to complete one lap. Rottnest Island is about 16 kilometres off the coast of Western Australia near Perth. This is one of the magnificent vessels that can get you across there. Warwick, I've had the good fortune to spend many, many weeks of my young life on Rottnest Island, and I can tell you it really is a paradise if you're looking for a good holiday. The swimming, the diving, the fishing, everything is great. It's been a beautifully preserved island, and anyone who wants to go there, I can guarantee them a good time.
It certainly is the most idyllic place I've ever seen to sail these 18-foot skiffs. Xerox in command of the final race. Their boys have just been absolutely cool all week. They've just got the confidence and calmness of real champions.
On board Prudential, the boys, in my mind, have continued to sail well as they sail up past Phillip Rock now for the last time, heading up towards the top end of the course for the last time. Beautifully trimmed, working as a team, but don't have the boat speed, which is not to take anything away from Phil Barnett and the team on Xerox. Look at that again, another beautiful tack. The weight transfers always so beautifully balanced all the time. Each member of the crew knows what the other one's doing and working just perfectly as a team. That's just been proven too much for the Prudential team over the course of this series, and I have no doubt, though, that when they come back next summer, Rob Brown will be going at Phil Barnett with everything he's got.
Also, the boat speed is a great credit to Phil Barnett because he's the one that chose the direction that the development would take on this boat. And he's worked very closely with the sail designers and for the rigs and the sails, and he's deserved that boat speed. He's worked very hard for it, and the whole package this year has just been top notch.
And look at that spinnaker set. Now you just saw the enormous power of Dave Gibson in the middle of the boat. I don't think I've seen anybody get a spinnaker up to the top of the mast faster than that all season. Dave Ewing's in the bow knew exactly when to pull the spinnaker out to the bow sprit, and boy oh boy, what a good set that was. Prudential now approaching the top mark. Let's see how they go around and set.
Taking a little bit of time before they run into the boat, but Xerox just absolutely in charge of the whole regatta, in charge of this race.
Get ready with your head, Phil. That's it. Well done.
Bank of New Zealand rounding the top mark. In for the set now.
Cameron McDonald runs in to hoist the spinnaker to the top of the mast.
Go out, Charlie.
Charlie Diekman feeding the spinnaker out. Now that was a really good set on the Bank in New Zealand. I mean, when they get it right, they do it as good as anybody in the business. But they just seem to lack a little bit of consistency. And if they can just get that consistency, they will win regattas.
Elabashe was approaching the wing mark, just jibing around the wing mark now is Xerox, heading down towards the bottom end of the course for the final time. Probably overlaid the wing mark just slightly to get that angle right, taking no chances. Coming up to the wing mark now, Neil McDonald in the bow of Elabashe. Behind him, Craig Ramsden, and steering Adrian Carlin. The vessel looking a picture, and full of credit their performance this year. They've done extremely well, particularly, as we've said before, considering Adrian Carlin is a relatively small human being at about 7.5 stone. These machines take tremendous strength to drive, and whilst we've been critical at time of Elabashe this summer, rounding marks and overshooting them and things, I think the job that's been done really, when you analyse all the factors, has been excellent.
That's right, Bill, because you've got to remember that these boats are the hardest boats in the world to sail. I mean, there is not more difficult a craft to master than the 18-foot skiffs. And we just call it how it is. And certainly the guys that are winning and doing the job, you know, guys like Phil Barnett and Rob Brown and Scotty Ramsden, I mean, all of them, I mean, they're right up there, and even the best of them make mistakes.
Coming down to the bottom mark for the final time in the Prudential Superannuation Challenge, indeed, for the national circuit this summer. Skilled Engineering still hanging in there, on board Bank of New Zealand. Scott Ramsden moving into the middle of the boat to improve his angle down to the bottom mark as Xerox rounds up, continuing to lead, continuing her dominance.
It's one leg to go, and Phil Barnett has won the National Grand Prix circuit. The placings in this race are purely academic. He is the state champion. He won the Australian Open Championship, and he can just sit back and enjoy the last moments of this race.
Elabashe changing directions, getting down towards the bottom end of the course for the final time. Up ahead of them, Prudential rounds in second position. Rob Brown having his best performance of the series so far. Dave Slennett cleaning up there, and Elabashe now coming down to the bottom end. Now in the background, you can see a very dark sky. Over in Perth, we have a big thunderstorm, giving it heaps. Over here at Rottnest, just 16 kilometres away, beautiful sunshine and beautiful weather. Cleaning up on board Elabashe, and Craig Ramsden showing how skilled he is. Timing of that was absolutely perfect. Pulled the jib on to get that into the position it needs to be. Then the main sheet, they round up. That was a good rounding.
Yes, that was very tidy indeed. And the breeze starting to lighten off just a touch now. And tip-top white high five, going for the drop, still in front of the Bank of New Zealand. Skilled engineering starting to close up on Scotty Ramsden and the boys on the Bank of New Zealand there. And bit of a disappointing race for the Bank, really.
Go.
Going for the Spinnaker drop on Bank of New Zealand. Still doing their utmost as ever.
Go, Noddy. Excellent. Perfect. Right, Cam, you're on with me, matey.
Scotty Ramsden certainly doesn't give up, does he, Bill?
Well, you can hear in his voice, I think if he was 2 miles behind them, his attitude wouldn't be any different. And that's why Scott Ramsden is going to become a champion in the sport, because he's such a keen competitor and so keen to win, and he's got plenty ahead of him. And that really tells the story of the season right there, Warwick. Xerox sailing straight over the top of Prudential, superior boat speed, superior boat handling. Bank of New Zealand now back on the breeze, sailing over the sandbanks at Rottnest. The crew very stable, the skiff steady in the water, the sails, which are the engine of the skiff, making best use of the fuel, which is the very clean air that we get over here.
Let's tuck it underneath, Ella. Yep, you're right, let's go. You're right. Here we go.
Through the tack, a nice tack.
Pull it.
Now they've got to accelerate the boat up again.
Also coming across on a port tack, wind over the left-hand side is Prudential. They are not too far away from the finishing line now. There's the gap up to Xerox, and that's a gap of some 30 seconds or so, which is a substantial gap in this short course racing. And at the moment, the team on board Xerox, they know what they've got in hand. They're very relaxed looking crew indeed, but still always sailing to optimise their performance. Dave Ewing in the bow of the vessel moving his weight because the breeze is softening up a bit, and it's up to the crew always to be moving their weight in and out to maintain equilibrium in the skiff, keep the boat flat in the water and make best possible use of the hull.
Rob Brown has certainly learned a very hard lesson this season. He made a dramatic choice in development, and he has paid dearly for it all season. And Prima still trying hard, and the sky's looking very dark.
A bolt of lightning from the mainland over there. Plenty of activity back on the mainland, plenty of sunshine here at Rottnest Island. The Xerox crew on their way up to the finish line. Perhaps Phil Barnett now starting to think to himself, okay, I've really kicked butt this summer. Got to start thinking about next summer now. He knows they'll all be coming at him with everything they've got, and I imagine, Warwick, the planning will be starting very early in the piece.
Well, he's got a very hard act to follow. He's won everything this year, and he's on the pedestal. They all want to knock him off. Certainly Scotty Ramsden has learned a lot from this year, as had Rob Brown, and I think we could have a couple of new players in there. I've heard a few rumours that possibly Craig Ramsden is thinking about sailing a boat, and one Michael Walsh might be returning to the class. So I think we can expect a big year next year, Bill.
I think it's going to be absolutely huge. Some first-class people getting into the sport to assume campaigns. This is the guy they're going to have to beat. He's coming up to the finish line now, or I should say these are the people, because they have worked very much as a team. And there they go. They've crossed the line for the final race. They've won the national circuit. They've dominated the season, and there are the final points in the Prudential Superannuation Challenge. A comprehensive victory for Xerox. Excellent performance from the Bank of New Zealand. Prudential not quite so good. And so the final points on the national circuit this summer tell the story of what's gone on. A dominant season for the Xerox skiff. John Hosking is talking to their Victoria skipper, Phil Barnett.
Take us back to actually as you crossed the line and you heard the shotgun go. Tell us what how you were feeling with the crew and that.
Well, we were fairly confident we were within 100 metres of the finish line. All we had to do was finish, and when we crossed the line, all that relief, and we just had a great sigh of relief from everybody, and just a feeling of happiness, and seeing that the Grand Prix Sailing is working and getting bigger and better. You know, you saw all those spectators out there, and you know, like that's just amazing. It's just growing and growing and growing.
The 18-footer class is one where you do try things differently, and even though we had the same hulls, our rigs were different than Xerox, and you know, they got it right, we got it wrong.
Phil Barnett, Dave Gibson and Dave Ewings have shown in this series this year that they are the best 18-foot skiff sailors in the world today. Their performance and the fantastic public reaction that we've had this summer to the national circuit have been the highlights of our summer. We look forward to your company when we return next summer with next year's national circuit.